Whispers beneath the floorboards. In the quiet outskirts of a forgotten town nestled between thick woods and misty hills, stood a decaying Victorian house, long abandoned until recently. Eleanor, a reclusive artist and single mother, moved in with her 7-year-old son, Caleb. After her husband vanished without a trace 2 winters ago, Eleanor had suffered from frequent panic attacks and hallucinations. The move was meant to bring peace, but instead, it brought whispers. The house moaned constantly. Its wooden floorboards creaked like restless bones. There was a rusted swing in the backyard that swayed on windless nights. The neighbors, what few there were, avoided eye contact whenever Eleanor asked about the house's history. Caleb was quiet, imaginative, and often drawn to solitude. He'd spend hours in the garden, talking to someone Eleanor couldn't see. At first, she thought it was his way of coping. But then, strange things began to happen. It started with footsteps in the attic, though no one had gone up there. Then came faint giggles from empty rooms and scratch marks appearing beneath the wallpaper. Sometimes, she'd hear the back door click open in the middle of the night. One morning, Eleanor found soil on Caleb's shoes, although he swore he hadn't gone outside. One stormy evening, Eleanor heard 2 distinct voices coming from Caleb's room. Not just giggles, conversations. One voice was Caleb's. The other was shrill, raspy, and whispering in a tongue she didn't understand. She opened the door to find Caleb sitting with a row of mismatched dolls. He turned and smiled. "Mommy, this is Elsie," he said, pointing beside him. "There's no one there, sweetie," she replied, uneasy. "She doesn't like to be seen," Caleb whispered. "She says people look at her eyes and scream." That night, Eleanor dreamt of a girl with hollow, black eyes and blood running down her cheeks. Crouched under her bed, clutching Caleb's drawings, humming lullabies in reverse. The next day, Caleb refused to eat. She said food makes us weaker. So we can stay longer. Eleanor's anxiety spiraled. She nailed the attic shut. She covered the mirrors. She burned sage and left salt across the doorframes. But it didn't help. The turning point came one cold midnight. She was awakened by the sound of the swing creaking outside. When she looked out, she saw Caleb, and someone else sitting beside him. A girl, draped in a pale gown, her feet not touching the ground, hair floating as if submerged in water. Eleanor ran outside. But Caleb was alone. "I was talking to Elsie," he said. "She says you're not my real mommy." The next morning, Eleanor found a small grave dug beside the swing. Inside was a doll, dressed like Caleb, with buttons for eyes and its mouth sewn shut with red thread. That night, Eleanor locked the doors and slept beside Caleb. As she drifted into a restless sleep, she felt a cold draft brush her face. A creak. Then a whisper. "Mommy, are you awake yet? Mommy, are you awake yet?" She jolted up. Caleb was sleeping peacefully. But a figure stood at the foot of the bed. It had Caleb's height but not his form. It was warped. Its arms were too long, its mouth too wide. Its skin looked like melted wax. When it spoke again, its voice echoed with multiple tones. "Can I sleep with you tonight?" Eleanor screamed, grabbed Caleb, and rushed to the hallway, but every window was now covered in black cloth. The walls bled shadows. Her phone displayed only static. The house was no longer hers. She locked themselves in the kitchen. Hours passed. Finally, silence. Caleb slept in her lap, his breath slow and steady. But as dawn broke, Eleanor saw something she couldn't unsee, a second Caleb, standing at the threshold of the kitchen, holding a teddy bear with torn-out eyes. He smiled, revealing rows of jagged teeth. "You have the wrong one," he whispered. "The real me is buried." Eleanor turned to the sleeping child in her arms. Only to see a doll, its face stitched crudely, leaking sawdust. Her heart broke, but she didn't cry. She stood up, numb, and walked to the garden. There, beneath the swing, a hand poked out of the shallow grave. Tiny fingers. Dirt under the nails. Eleanor clawed at the soil with trembling hands, pulling out her cold, lifeless son. She cradled him for hours, singing lullabies through choked sobs. And when she buried him again, this time deeper, she whispered, "Sleep, baby. I won't let her take you again." When she re-entered the house, she was no longer crying. Elsie stood by the fireplace. Waiting. Holding the teddy bear. "Mommy," she said. Eleanor dropped to her knees, held out her arms, and with a hollow smile replied. "Yes, darling. I'm ready to be yours."